Cover Killer Nation. Whenever you think of psychedelic rock, whenever you think of progressive rock and space rock, there's a band that now should roll off your tongue. Just as though Pink Floyd, Hawkwind, Yes, Genesis, and other names from the 1970s and the late 1960s should roll off your tongue whenever you consider it in the past. That new band, that band that should roll off your tongue now, is entitled Astra, and they have a 2012 album that was just released within the past month entitled The Black Chord, which needs to be reviewed, and that's what we're here to do today. Now, if you think about this whole entire genre, you have to understand that there seems to be a bit of a resurgence going on. This is something that for a long time, these bands were sought after only by the most die-hard collectors, only by the people that really enjoyed this style of music. Usually, they were members of the elder scrolls of the community that really enjoyed this because they lived through it. There were, of course, many people, young people such as you and I, that sometimes would also engage in the collection of it. However, there is a vast majority of people from our generation that just do not understand the beauty and the strange nature of this music, and the fact that it is just so mind-expanding, not to mention also very well written. Now with Astra, they have become part of a bit of a resurgence that's going on with bands such as Storm Corrosion and Alcest and the like that are kind of bringing that little idea back home. And Storm Corrosion is probably going to be one of the biggest influences of that movement, considering their album seems to really have a vein of that 1970s era prog rock that Steven Wilson and Michael Ackerfeet both mutually adore. But what about Astra? What's so special about Astra? A couple years ago, they released their first album entitled The Weirding. Weird title, weird album, very long album, about 77 minutes in length, but a very, very strong affair. Definitely showed the seeds were being sown for a resurgence in this style of music, and if there were going to be such a resolution in this music where it was going to come back, they wanted to be in the forefront of it. It was a very lengthy album, got very, very good reviews, in fact, even sparked a little bit of controversy. Okay, not really controversy. One of the songs sort of kind of sounded like it could concurrently go with the film Cocoon. So what do? They start off this album, The Black Chord, with a song called Cocoon. I kind of like the sense of humor with these guys. I like the fact that they kind of took that and yeah. Anyways, this album is a lot shorter than The Weirding. It is actually shorter by about a half of an hour. So not only is this something that's maybe a little bit easier for people to digest, but it's something where more people may be willing to do so. For some strange reason, the attention span of a lot of music fans has just tended to trend downward, and you know, shorter albums tend to be the ones that are sometimes labeled as the best because they don't overstay their welcome or overbear a listener with tons of material. Of course, I say that, and then I realize that rappers and the like create these epic albums, but it's filled with 75% filler crap. But that's besides the point. With this album, I feel that Astra has kind of really hit something where they could kind of produce an album like this almost every year, and fans would just love it. Fans would eat it up. There's enough of a combination in here of 3 different styles of music that they're able to put their personal stamp on, that there's a wide and diverse range of people that will enjoy this. There's a lot of progressive rock, there is psychedelic rock, and there's also space rock or space metal. Think about the combination of the latter era 1960s Pink Floyd / psychedelic rock movement. Think about the progressive rock from the 1970s that involved names such as Kansas, such as Yes, such as Blackwater Park, such as Still Life, such as Gentle Giant, and consider Hawkwind, which I mentioned earlier in this review, as the space rock part. Combine them all together, add a little bit of individuality to it, and you have exactly what Astra is able to create. I like the fact that no matter what length the song is, whether it be 8 minutes, whether it be 6 minutes, whether it be nearly 15 minutes, these guys are able to craft the songs in a unique and interesting way to keep you going. And the way in which they do so is something that is known, or is not should I say known, but it's a process in which they build anticipation. This is an anticipatory process where they start the track off at a certain pace and they kind of build your tension, knowing that something is going to shift on this track, and then they allow it to happen. They do this, and this is the reason why progressive music gets its name. It's a progressive movement of the music itself. The music itself is able to start in one location and end in another location instead of being kind of cyclical like you would hear in traditional styles of music, where you hear an opening, then you hear verse, chorus, maybe a bridge thrown in there, maybe this, maybe that. But there's still a very robotic, almost synthesized format to it, where it's very easy to really digest, and it's very, very easy to dissect. Not so much the case with progressive music. Progressive music instead builds off itself, and in fact grows off itself. It's almost like a hive mind. It's growing itself internally and then infecting the remainder of the song with this anticipation that you have to see what movement happens and occurs next. That is what this album does ridiculously well. It keeps you enthralled. It keeps you involved. It keeps you wondering where it's going to go next and what's going to happen next. And I gotta say that this is an album and a band that could easily be leading this forefront of new progressive rock. And they say that music is itself cyclical, that things that happened in the past come back. We have not seen that with disco. I doubt we ever will. We need grunge to come back to destroy fucking emo. But in prog rock, at least, this is kind of a nice little taste. This is a nice little taste of what happened in the 1970s, where bands that were underground, bands that really didn't have a lot of exposure, were able to create very moving, very well-crafted, and very memorable music. And I think that Astra really has themselves a little sleeper here. It's just that prog rock and a lot of other distinguishing genres like it just don't have the population. They just don't have the audience. However, those who do opt to listen to this are going to be very satisfied. Give this album an 8 out of 10. I really like this. As a prog junkie, as a prog nut, as a prog head, this was just a nice little piece of nostalgia for me that was made this year. So it gives me a lot of hope that this is a style of music that people not only still consider to be very important to music in general, but also that they still strive to play it. They still strive to put their own stamp on it. I like the usage of multiple instruments that you don't see that often, such as Moog organs. Really, really cool stuff. We'll see what happens. We'll see if this sparks a little mini movement. But if not, then at least we have a band that is going to be putting out consistently good progressive rock albums, we assume, in the future. Cover Killer Nation, thank you. I will see you next time.